It's not about what it looks like. It's not about what it looks like. It's about what it feels like. So we have to do our own internal fixation before the universe does the external fixation. Today, the topic of discussion is gap effect. Before I dive into what this means, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I currently graduated from medical school recently. I usually, after you graduate from medical school, the next step is residency and things like that. My initial pursuit was orthopedic surgery, still is, but I did not match. So if you don't match, my plan B's didn't quite work out for me. So I'm kind of stuck in a period where I'll consider a gap year or a gap period. You understand? At this time of my life, it's not as terrifying. Well, actually, it was very depressing initially. As people coming in, we're gonna continue. So I guess I can start a fresh welcome. But anyway, so what I was saying is, so when I found out I did not match initially, that period was very depressing for me because it's almost like I don't want these loans to start calling my name. I need to do something. I need to plan. And in the field of medicine, it's like I said, like I was explaining earlier. In life, we're all trying to get into the forest. You're trying to get into that place where you feel like there's opportunity, right? There's a lot of opportunity in the forest, but in the road you see clearly. But the path that we're all trying to go, it's not as clear. Sometimes we gotta go through the forest to find, where we're trying to go. I'm just using that imagery just so you can see the difficulty you get, the uncertainty, once you get in there. So, medical school is something that once you're in, people praise you about. It's good to call somebody a doctor and things like that. But I think the most important thing about, before I get going, is I wrote something: our purpose is going to open the doors to our wealth. You understand? So I feel like a lot of us, the discovery I made 2013 before I got into medical school was I was sitting here studying. I took this exam multiple times. I was sitting here studying. Yes, I wanted to get into medical school, but when you studying, it doesn't feel like you're in your purpose. But you have to get through this to get into your purpose. Sometimes we all know what our purpose is, but that trial and those things that we have to overcome are usually very, very, very difficult. And and it's easy to entertain your purpose before you get through the trial. You understand? It's easy to be like, oh, I'm going to the studio because I'm so cold at singing, then call somebody to give you voice lessons and pay dues to get voice lessons. Like, we all try to cut the corner to our purpose. I remember back in high school, coaches used to say, when you run the track, you used to have those friends that be running next to the grass rather than staying in the lane themselves. But you cheating, those meters that you cutting off is going to pay. Is not helping you at all, because in the end, in the future, you're going to see that your ability to physically cut through corners is going to deteriorate because you have to start using your sense. And your strength and your mentality has to kick in. A lot of us, when things are not moving for us, we become depressed, very silent. Like, you're going through things, you're very silent, and then what happens is that when you get that way, you start becoming envious without even knowing. Your stuff is not moving. You can't really smile for other people when their stuff is moving, but you really think you're happy for them, and then you celebrating with them, but then you go home in your corner in your bed and you're still waking up the same condition. That's why I call this part your condition. And our problem is, we all know our condition. Just like when a patient comes to see a doctor, you saying something's wrong with you. But when we ask you, what are your symptoms? Or when did it start? Or how does it get better? How does it get worse? There's some answers that a patient would shy away with revealing to the physician. Because first of all, they're still afraid to accept their condition. And I feel like you could relate the same inability to accept your condition, just living, based on what you have to say, you know what, I'm inadequate. In high school, they gave us novels to read, and I used Spark Notes to cut the corner. Now in college, when I'm taking an exam, they have a verbal reasoning aspect of it, and I'm not doing well. It's because I never built that muscle to be able to read. So when you look at the overall, your ability not to do well, you forget, man, there was a time you didn't perform well. You didn't do things that was going to prepare you to tackle that. And that's what we all encounter, and we're not accepting. Like, you have to accept that you're not an avid reader. So you can expect that an exam that is timed, that you're going to do well upon that time interval that they give you. You might finish it, but you may have sped through the main highlights, and you thinking that you finished the exam, but you didn't build the muscle and ability to read fast, and it didn't look slow to you enough to be like, oh, I still have time to go back, because you built your ability to read, and you read well, and when you taking that exam, you did well, because you used to it. The same thing as track. If you cut in the corner, me and Eric we ran track in high school together. Some people will be running track and they'll be cutting the corners, running on the grass. But when it comes to game day, track meet day, when you race against other teams that have been trained well, you see how deficient you are. And I feel like when you start, alternating the behavior. So first is accept your condition. And second is understand your condition. Right? I talk about verbal reasoning because I'm good in the physics, I'm good in the math. Verbal reasoning, part of the MCAT when I was studying for it, was piss poor. That was what held me down, because it's graded on 3 parts. You could do well on 2 parts, but then that's one that's holding you back, and the overall score, it's not appealing in application. So for me, even though I knew I could try to game it and find a way, but I couldn't game that. Like, it was something you just cannot game. You have to actually face it. So I understood that was a weakness. What did I do? I tried my best. I focused more on studying on that, and still, the time interval in that period, it was not enough to build that muscle. And I had to accept that situation. So after understanding, the most important thing is formative planning. So you haven't gotten into law school, you haven't gotten to pharmacy school, you haven't gotten an MBA program, you haven't gone to those things. Does that mean that you're inadequate? No. When you have to look at your overall, you got to look at your hands and say, what do I do so easily that brings me joy, but that may not be the most illustrious thing to look upon. A lot of us have ambitions and we want to be successful and we want to be sharp, you understand, and stuff like that. But you might just be a talented dancer. I dance, but I know I can't make a career out of dancing. But what your natural abilities and your gifts do for you is it distinguishes you. When you get into things that are so structured, like law, like medicine, like all these things, your natural things distinguish you from, because that's what gives you your flavor. It makes you in a room of other people different. But you understand, all of you guys are wearing white coats or whatever that is, but underneath all of that, in your soul, something is different about you. So when me and this other physician are competing in the market when it comes down to making money, it's not about ability to treat, because the medication is the same. I tell you to get ibuprofen from Walmart or something like that, he's going to tell you to get ibuprofen from Walmart. But when you come and see me, the time we have conversation, the conversation is different. The way I take care of you might be different. The way I interact with you and all these other things might be different, because there's something that's distinguished that I have that is distinguished. When you figure out and you try to formulate a new plan, you have to be realistic with yourself. You have to modify some behaviors, right? An example of that, 2013, I went to University of Houston. I may have had the behavior that, okay, I can study and still party and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with partying. Nothing wrong with partying. But if I knew I needed to be successful, I needed to cut that down. I told myself I spent a whole year, 2013, limited. After UNT had their graduation party, that whole 2013, I was locked in my room. I told myself that, I have to limit that, because if I'm studying Monday to Friday and Saturday and I go out, okay, I can get back in routine on Monday. But imagine if I don't go out and I don't interact with somebody that I say, hey, call me on Wednesday. You meet somebody on the weekend, you just happen to go, hey, just call me on Wednesday. So you see them on Saturday, they start texting you Monday or Tuesday. So now your brain has deviated and you're now focusing on somebody's going to be texting you. You don't realize that you're not fully logged in because now you open up a hole for distractions to come in. I'm not saying everybody's distracted, but a lot of people's ambitions are not similar to your ambition. The way they deal with their time is not the same way you deal with your time. You might be very militant about what you got to do. Sometimes you don't need to interact with people. You just say, you know what, 7 p.m. I gotta get up, I gotta go do these hills, I gotta go do these weights or something like that. When you fix yourself in your schedule and you see a pattern that you keep working, and when you start tasting the results of your focus, you don't want to interact with anyone anymore. When I was in medical school, back in Ireland, I would lock myself in a room. When I go to class, I'll be honest with you, I slept in class and stuff like that, but I would stay up all night and I would develop my own formula. I'll go to the store. I'll get a white poster, all the lecture notes that they will give us. You understand? I developed my own method about how to extract that information. So I take a whole lecture and I put a whole division of lecture on the poster board, the highlights. I make it like an X-ray. I told myself, if I'm gonna develop a skill like a physician, I have to enhance my photographic memory, right? So when I see something, I put a whole poster. If it's the Krebs cycle or something like that, or meiosis 1 or something like that, I have it all right there. And any deficiencies that I need to know about that, it'll be right there. So when I'm in an exam and I see that, it's almost like in my head, I'm taking an exam and I'm remembering where I put that stuff. And when we talk about medicine, when we describing like a location, we usually say inferior, superior, or left quadrant, right quadrant. You understand? So I inject that in my head. So I'd be like, right quadrant, I remember that, boom. Hey, that was working for me. And when I developed that, I repeated that continuously. Other students, they may like to flip through notes and regurgitate it, but me, I'll see it once and flip it through. If I'm brushing my teeth, I wake up in the morning, I'm right there on my poster, boom. Because I made some behavior modifications. I formulated a plan. I accepted my weakness. I understood, formulated a plan, and modified my behavior. And then I'm gonna take the next best approach. Your plan that you initially have might be a good plan, right? But like we all see those memes about going this direction, then going that direction. You understand? Like, so when we see it, we don't understand who generated that. It sounds intriguing when you first see it. Everybody's like, oh yeah, plan. Oh, somebody's going this way or they're going that way. But you don't understand it till you actually face that. Then you like, I thought I was going to be an orthopedic surgeon the first step I took, but I didn't know I needed to wait 3 years before I got that. So there are stories of people who want to be orthopedic surgeons right out of medical school. Nobody gets into a residency just like that, right? I have to accept that my pathway, my journey has been so distinguished that has made me be this person that wants to remain motivated because I go through pain. And it's not pain like physical pain, but I go through heart pain because the door to where I need to go is not opening right away. But I now have to understand the cycle of my life. Personally, when I was born, my left lower leg was paralyzed, partial paralyzed when I was in Nigeria from an injection. So from that I was already limping through life. You understand? I was already limping through, so I use that metaphor. I have to limp through life, so I have something to tell when I make it through. So when I accept it, that's how my journey is gonna be. Things start slowing down for me. Anytime I see a speed bump, I'm like, you know what? I know I'm going to a safety zone because I'm going through speed bumps. And sometimes we have to accept the kind of journey we journey, and it makes you calmer when you see other people doing their thing. However they're doing it, that's not how you're gonna do it. Because when you do it the way you're supposed to do it for you, that's what's gonna make you legendary. So our purpose is going to open the doors to our wealth. So whatever it is, wherever you're at, maybe you consider going back to school, maybe you're trying to get into a program, maybe you finish your school, you're still in that space where I don't know where I'm gonna go after and things like that. That's your condition, and that's for you to deal with. But here's what's diffused for everybody, regardless of the concept of the gap effect. Your life matters. I used to always say this, that your life matters, and there's something that's standard for all of us, no matter if you're a physician, if you're a lawyer, if you're a salesman, or this and that. Wealth is what we are pursuing. Simple as that. You know what I mean? Wealth is what we are pursuing. If you don't have money, you can't even have these 2 phones you got. You can't pay, your car note. You can't use a laptop. You understand? You can't even transport yourself over here. It's very difficult if there's no money. And I feel like, for me, I don't think I know how to handle money. I don't think I know how to even grow money, to be quite honest. And I think as a human being, this is the most important thing that we need to process. I just recently started reading this financial book, and I felt like it would be important to add to this because before you get to where you need to go or you want to go, say as an institution or stuff like that, you will have limited opportunity to learn when you're in the field. Why? Because you're focusing on what they have to offer. You don't have that much time to be creative. And this is the point that I'm trying to make, is that in the gap effect, in the gap period, it's up to you to look within and be as creative and learn as much as possible. When my stuff was not moving in 2013, the library that's by my house, there's a book that I read called The Power of Small. It's a very, very small book. I was reading this book because it was give me ability to see different perspectives. So it was an accumulation of stories that were detailing small acts of positivity, regardless of how much the person wanted to go far. But like the little details, like maybe perhaps somebody gave them like a $5 bill, but that was more than they ever had. And you know what? I'm gonna save this. So it conditioned me to start appreciating the little things. I was chasing a big goal, but I wasn't giving myself, cups of water along the way with the small goals that I was achieving. So it allowed me to always see everything with a positive outlook. Okay, I didn't pass the exam. You know what? Maybe I needed to be around at home a little bit longer so my mom could get some help. You understand? Or maybe I was supposed to be around the house for a little bit longer because of this condition. There's a positive reason. There's always a reason for everything. You can't always be like, hey, all is bad. No, timing is key. Because when it happens at the right time, the way it feels, how sweet it tastes. For example, I'm still reliving my graduation party I had recently. Just imagine if the time I wanted to get in and I took a certain route, and all those years when I was in medical school, I stayed aware of what's going on. I kept putting messages along the way. I kept encouraging people along the way, even when stuff was going bad for me. When I was out there in the island, there was a time when I heard that my sister, somebody pulled a gun on her while she was at UNT. I couldn't do anything about that. I had to stay in my own place, emotionally suppressed, and focused on my books. Because if I let my emotions, just like I was talking to Erica the other day about the limbic system, she's learning about the brain. If you let your emotions and your amygdala and all of that stuff, alert, your fight or flight, it can disrupt your ability to store memory, because everything is all connected. You understand? Everything's all connected in your ability to store memory, and stress, release of cortisol affects that. So me, I had to train myself in that period to be a machine, regardless of what's going on, regardless of my dad's health issues at the time. I lost my dad at the end of 2016 because of kidney issues. But I knew about that while I was studying. I knew I was going away. You understand? I knew I was far away. And when situations were happening, it was having exacerbations. What am I going to do? I still had to bite down regardless. They're not going to stop. Because if I took a back seat and I had to come home for emergency relief or something like that, I may not have the same power and right attitude to finish. And I never slowed down. Even when I lost my pops, I kept going. People take breaks. It was tough that I didn't, Maybe if I took a break, it could have gone a different way. But I told myself, no, I'm just gonna get through the pain, because I have all the rest of my life to deal with that loss. So the 1 year that I take off is not gonna band-aid the many years I have to reflect on it. So, that's what we need. That's what we need to get to when we going through a situation. So in the gap period, like I said, in my gap period, I picked up a book. I remember I made a song off GarageBand, right? I made a song off GarageBand. Let me tell you how I made one. Vine, around the time there was this video on Vine that kept being on repeat. I actually have it on my phone, but I'm not gonna play it right now. There's a Vine, and the girl was basically expressing her pressures, and she was crying. It was kept on repeat. She was like, I can't remember exactly what she said, but this is just, a summary. She was crying now, saying that I spent my whole life trying to do what I want to do, saying that she don't like other people pressuring her to do what she doesn't want to do. So it resonated with me. It was playing. I wrote something around that time, and I recorded on GarageBand. I extracted an instrumental from YouTube. So the instrumental was playing on the background on my laptop. Simultaneously, the Vine was playing, and I got on GarageBand. I hit record, and I start talking over it. Right? It didn't sound in tune, but I was able to make something. I converted it to iTunes, right? And I listened to it, and I was like, okay, maybe this is how they make music. This is how they make music. Maybe with proper technology and proper skill, I can make it sound smooth. I learned that skill. I transferred it over my phone. I still play it. But here's the point I'm trying to make. So I told myself I wanted to launch a podcast. I said I want to make a podcast, right? So this year, when I found out I didn't match into residency, I was like, I still want to succeed with certain goals. I started to do these online sessions on Wednesday called Pipelines Through the Grand, right? So what I would do is I would ask pharmacists, people in the medical field to come one-on-one with me. I asked them a couple questions. People, followers would chime in. I let them know. I advertise it. So somebody told me, somebody messaged to me, was like, is there a way you can save these sessions? It's very, very helpful. This was like 2 sessions in, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try. IG only allows you to keep it for 24 hours. I was like, I'm gonna try. So what I would do, because I did that in 2013, I would take my phone and put it right there by GarageBand. I would extract the sound, take time, and I edit out the impurity stuff that is not necessary. I would mess it together, turn it into an MP4, transfer to iTunes, and I got an app called what's the app called again? Anyways, there's this app that I use to make a podcast. So I logged in, put the MP4 in there, and it allows you to have like an intro. Like things like on the sounds. I put like a simple intro and things like that. Boom, submitted it, 72 hours. It was approved to 6 platforms, including the iTunes, on the Apple Podcast and stuff like that. So now I could be recording this right now, and after today it'll be right on my channel. But just because I took time to learn something that you would have gone to the studio to pay money for or ask somebody for, but it's just creative things in that period that I learned. So what I'm trying to say is, regardless of if stuff is not moving for you, you have opportunity to learn skills that when people get older, they're not able to learn anymore. Like, there are things you can do that may not give you, like you said, you was collecting certificates and stuff like that. I myself, I don't have a certificate. You may know how to do taxes. I just have to do it myself. Like, we have to learn how to do it your own. Like, they don't tell you these things in school. Like, they might talk about it, but all you're doing is accumulating debt. Like I said, I'm $500,000 in debt. But I'm hoping that I'm gonna catch up, you understand? So the concept I'm trying to pitch to right now is, do not be depressed because you haven't gotten to program. You have to start thinking about wealth, most importantly. Let that be what's pushing you, you understand? Because I think we all think we're gonna live forever. No. And what the book I was reading about was talking about, wealth is not for you, is you creating something for when you're gone and for people, you understand? So let me talk about your life. I read a quote by Warren Buffett. It said, "Don't save what is left after spending. Spend what is left after saving." And I feel like we all do the first part, and that's facts. I mean, we've come up in a generation with social media and stuff like that. You know, I contest that. You know, initially people would be on there just to stunt and things like that. And oftentimes you don't know what people are fighting, but they're trying to look. So when the social media and IG world, was really being a problem, that's when I developed something that I use on my doctor's message. I said, it's not about what it looks like. It's about what it feels like. So I had to inherit that. I had to say that all the time so I can cut myself outside of the mirage and always remind myself it's about what it feels like. Because what people are showing you about, they're not really doing it. And I always try to tell people that I live openly just to show you that you have to face the trial of who you are regardless of what you do. So I tell people, don't suppress your abilities to express yourself in fear that you can't keep up with who you tell people you are. And that's what goes wrong with a lot of people. And then second is people put who they are and they can't accept the reality of who they're not. You understand? But when you in that greatness, nobody can stop you. You hear like people like Eric Thomas come out and do what they do. That's what they're about. And when you present who you want to be, it's like when you have a knife or something like that, you need a sharpener in place. Who you present you want to be is that sharpener. And if it's every time that you don't be who you say you are, that's the knife. You have to keep sharpening yourself with that. So you have to throw out what your expectations in front of you, your expectations, not what you expect other people to do for you. Your expectations, you gotta meet that. That's where you are at. The rewards you reap later will hold values that were not imaginable in the current. That's what I call expectation. I was just sitting down yesterday and I just came up with this quote. So when you make great choices, depending on where you are at, the rewards you reap later will hold values that were not imaginable in the current. And that goes back to the modifying your behavior. I think like behavior modification is probably the biggest thing that, as a challenge, that we have to make. We cannot ever see ourselves in our full form adulthood, but we start to feel adult. But the idea we get as an adult, we don't realize that adults are really infants. Adults are really infantile in their nature. You have to be malleable. To say that you're an adult means that you're malleable. When you're a youth, you're not as malleable. You understand? You're not as malleable. You're in position for somebody to mentor you easier. But when you're an adult, you have to take that form to say, I need a mentor. It's so humbling when you reach out to somebody that knows what it takes to get there and say, I need a mentor. And you email them every 4 weeks or whenever, you be like, how you doing? And they see the steps you take. And it's so powerful to know that you don't need them, but you need them. Because you know why? The resources that you think you could go get, you can get them faster from somebody who already read it. That's the whole point of having parents that know something. All of us here are black. And our parents won't teach us about money. We don't know nothing about money. How many people here have life insurance? You have life insurance. Why do you have life insurance?
Well, I was very fortunate because we are black, and something that a lot of black people don't tend to do is look at how life insurance is like wealth protection. It's not necessarily like anything else. So I don't come from a lot of money, but my grandparents had the wherewithal to say, let me get not only policies on my kids, but on my grandkids. And my mom, even though I did come from a single parent household, she did the same. Mm-hmm. And so for myself, not only am I going to take a couple policies out of myself this year, even if it's like $10 a month for a $10,000 policy, that starts, I can build that up over time as my income grows. Mm-hmm. And then I found the importance in it. But that's just me personally.
What can inhibit your ability to be insured?
Yeah.
What can affect your life? What can affect you and your ability to have insured life?
I'm glad you asked the question. This is what I do daily. So, mm-hmm. Time, mm-hmm. And you know, that's pretty
Yeah,
much what
and
you're getting sick. You know,
exactly.
That's the
So-
biggest things. Yeah.
So let me go. So we're already on that topic. Let me talk about this. I'm gonna get back to this and focus. Let me talk about this. So life insurance. You know, I've had people when I was in high school come by to the house to sell life insurance. And I remember then I was processing. This is 2013. Actually, I had friends that were selling life insurance, and I considered it because I understood. I'm like, if you buy a policy that guarantees you, after you do your calculations, obviously, that guarantees you $5K, and the premium that you paying per, is like $500, right? Cool. You don't know when you're gonna pass. Sometimes we think nothing accidents will happen. We're so healthy, but what happens is if it's $500K and you paying that and you die, that means your family gets that $500K. But you don't think of it like your family's getting that $500K as money for them to package like this. This is the money that they're getting when you talk about life insurance. First, they consider, it's called a dime method. You understand? It's considered the debt that you have. Maybe you took student loans, all that you owe. That's not free money, that's what you were paying, right? So you calculate that plus the income you were making, right? Plus the mortgage that you were paying, plus the education. So the only thing that's positive here is the income. Everything else is loaned. You understand? You think that what they're getting is what you were making. No, but you own things. When you're paying a mortgage, you don't own that. And when you get a mortgage, you put insurance on the mortgage. So when you get life insurance is insuring you in insurance. There's a song called Assurance by DeVito. You understand? He bought a Porsche for the girl, and he's like, that's an insurance. Listen, your education, like that's, I don't have life insurance, you understand? I'm here as, I'm not anybody that is on this point, but I'm in a period. The gap effect is doing this to me. You understand? It's allowing me to sit down. I'm very excited of the kind of knowledge and things. I'm launching a dance class. Like I said, I dares, and I'm just like, God gave me a natural gift, something to express. Might as well do something in time interval, because everything is geared. Everything that I'm doing right now came from broke. There was a time this year when I was sitting on my party, you understand? Because I told myself, like, embarrassment and not getting into a residency position is not going to stop me from celebrating the struggles that I had and the mission. It felt like you celebrate because you have something to celebrate. No, I'm celebrating because I took the freaking exam 4 times on my way to take it the 5th time. I got in and I grinded, I overcame, I lost my pops, I still finished, and I still graduated with honors. You understand? I told myself I'm still gonna celebrate. So when I had limited money, I tell you a story. So when I was playing in this year, I came back from Nigeria. My money was low, and I was getting my last set of refund money in general. So I was like, all right, cool. So I was like, the way I would spend the refund money has to be different. I have to plan that I'm gonna graduate broke, but I don't want to graduate too broke. I don't want to be broke before I graduate. I had a rotation in Miami. I went through circumstances out there, and I ended up spending about $3K while being in that 4-week rotation, because certain situations had me spending more money than I needed to spend. So I came back, March came back, I'm already tight, and I'm just like, you know what? Then I took the hit that I didn't match. I'm down, depressed, but then I was like, you know what? The show must go on. I start trying to do things to get my mood up, creating the parties and all these things that I was planning to do, and I start putting it in the atmosphere. I said, you know what? Save the date. I threw out a save the date. I said, something's gonna go on. I threw it out. I said, I'm expecting something. I didn't know what it's gonna feel like, but I needed to take steps every single day to get there. So I did. And I remember when I was booking the DJ that came down and the MC that came down. These are people, friends that I met, and that experienced that struggle with me in February in Miami. We had a moment. I told them, I said, you know what? I'm gonna book you guys to do my party. They just said all I need to do was fly them from where they're coming from. I don't have to pay them anything. So I flew them, but even to get the flights was gonna be expensive, because at the end of the day, I'm still trying to eat food. I was going periods, I was eating 1 meal a day so I could make sure I had the money to do that. So I was like, when I established the DJ, the MC was still pending. And that's the most powerful message I have, because the whole Dallas right now is still raving about the MC I had at my event. I remember the day I said, you know what? I got this $200 right now, and the flight is like $250. Let me just go pay that stuff. I told myself I had to bite down. I paid it. I looked at my account. I only had $5.57. I took a screenshot of that money. I said, it's only going up from here. Like I'm telling you, I was driving my car. This is in New Jersey. It's still cold. We didn't get to experience spring. It was still snowing late. So imagine coldness and all of that. I was in a pressurized situation. I came over with a saying. I said my March moment took me to March Madness. I encountered some April Fools. Right now I'm Mayweather. In June I'm gonna change the tune. In July I'm gonna tell the devil he lied. The rest of the set I'm gonna leave it off camera because we're still going into the next month and we're not there yet. But what I did this month was I changed the tune. I came from June 1st. Boom, 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 boom. But I was experiencing getting ready for the gap effect. That's all I'm saying. I was getting ready, I accepted. I understood my condition. I had to formulate a plan. I had to modify some behaviors, and I had to take the next best approach. My last rotation, I had a surgical boot camp. And most of the places that I applied told me that I needed research. As far as surgical stuff, I needed research. I had surgical boot camp. I didn't know what I was gonna get out of this boot camp. It was a 4-week rotation. I had an opportunity to shadow anesthesiologist, get in the OR, but I've been in the OR, so I wasn't really motivated to do more OR stuff. But the one time I got into the OR, guess what I did? I asked the resident, I said, listen, are you working on any research right now? He said, I said, I'm actually working on something. And I was like, hey man, listen, I'm trying to get my hands on something. He contacted me. I was able to spend the last 2 weeks by choice. I'll go to the clinic. I make phone calls for surveys and stuff like that. June 1st hit. June 1st was the last day of my rotation, my last rotation in medical school. Got my certificate. Of course, I'm gonna express my joy for it. In that same moment, I got an email by AOS, which is an orthopedic association, that gave me an email that the two research projects has been submitted. Now what is pending is for it to be accepted. But the game is, as long as something is submitted and you're on paper, your name, regardless if it's published or not, that's works I can put on my CV, because it's not in my power. It's all about how that organization feels about to accept it. But I formulated a plan, and I said I'm gonna take the next best approach, and that was the next best approach. It changed the dynamics of things, and I started seeing perspective. What I accepted started becoming more relaxed. I'm like, you know what? Whatever I can do right now to create my own lane, because they tell you what you should do if you didn't match. Either get in a prelim, I didn't get that, or get a job or do these things. But I looked at what they're looking for. I still might have to answer certain questions about how do I feel if I'm not clinically in tune. But the things such as communicating about doing extra works to add on my CV, whether I did MBA, whether I went and got a certificate, it doesn't have to be something other people have done, but I can do something I can speak about in volume and confidence, knowing that if I do these things and I ask for recommendation letter to talk about me as a person, these are powerful things. And there's also power of networking. It's a crazy twist. I went after my graduation party on Friday. Next day, there's a friend of mine, she was having graduation. I go to her graduation, and I'm talking with the adults over there. I'm telling them just like I'm telling you guys about the situation. He goes to me and said, I know an orthopedic surgeon that's a program director in one of the residency programs out here in Dallas. The guy's, I'm Ebo, he's Ebo. Quickly, he got my contact. He said, we're gonna do what we can to help you. But all of that starts when you take the next best approach. What I'm trying to say is that in the gap effect, whatever it is, you can find your door to where you're supposed to go. It's not a foggy-like situation. And even if it's a fog-like situation, you just gotta put your high beam on. You get what I'm saying? You feel me?
I like
You gotta put your high beam on. Like, you don't put your high beam on when all is well, but you gotta really, really elevate your mind and see it bigger than what you saw it before. You understand? Because that's when you really, really gonna be in a fight or flight mode. You understand? Your emotions are gonna feel it. Because when you're on purpose, there'll be sometimes when I'm talking, I could feel it. Like, right before football, the same way I used to get when I was playing football. This how I knew I should have been in the league. Because I get the same effect right before. It's like you get that, you get that, you can't control yourself. It's the same way when I dance. I gotta feel that. If I'm not feeling that way in what I do in life, I'm not supposed to do that. If it's not making you lose sleep, I don't sleep. It's not a good thing to say you don't sleep, because when I study neuroscience, they'll tell you you need sleep to store memory. But I knew I was different because I never slept before any exam in the first few years of medical school. I would stay up all night if it's a 7 a.m. exam. I stay up all night looking at that joint till it's that time. I take a big load of coffee or something like that, and I just go in there. My brain's just going like this. Before I know it, I'm out that exam because I'm kicked in. I'm like, it works. When our purpose is going to open the doors to our wealth. And the thing, why this is not in reverse, is because if you pursue wealth first, and you're not in your purpose, you're not gonna relish. When you pursue wealth first, and you're not in your purpose, it's not gonna feel as meaningful when you're in your purpose, pursuing wealth. And that's all in the Bible. When you're in your purpose, it's almost like a floodgate. Because when you're in your purpose, people will be coming to you. The message will be touching people. They'll be smiling. You're not calculating the money. Let me give you an example. I had an opportunity to perform at somebody's wedding this past, weekend. Regardless of what when I charge to perform, before I just put myself out there, when I charge, I give a flat rate. That's why I know you're gonna pay me up front, right? But you don't know the blessing that's coming. You don't know how people are gonna feel in the moment and what they're gonna spray. That's the effect. Something is a cause, and there's always an effect. And causes are based on the choices we make, and the effect is the outcome of the choices we make. So I made a choice to accept. You understand? I made a choice to accept. Somebody asked me to come perform. I said, you know what? And the crazy thing about it is when I accepted this, when she offered to book me, I was needing money. So she sent me the $300 that I needed at that time. That I was using I used it to be able to experience a good graduation. I was like, you know what? I needed that money. I got it on Cash App. I was like, yes. Right when I needed that money. You understand? But it was something I threw out I expected. So crazy thing, the crazy outcome was I made over $400 off spray money over the weekend. And then I remember when I got home and I started counting that money. It's not the fact that I made money, but now when I had $5 in my account, now I understand that the money I make, the purpose behind why I'm making money. And when I talk about money, time, rate of return, inflation, tax, if you're in your gap period and you're trying to go somewhere, you need to understand the purpose of where you're going and what wealth means to you. Because all of us being anguished, I think in our culture puts a lot of label on what we do, where we're at, but nobody cares what you do when you're wealthy. What you think is going on in politics? They're wealthy, they're putting people in position that you don't even know they're doing anything. You can't even identify them because they're not physically known. Like, you don't even know who they are. They don't have labels in there, say they're doctors, they're this and that. They're just wealthy. They're wealthy and they're understood and they're able to influence. So let's talk about wealth for a second. There's the mathematical parts about this. I have like a little bit of time left. So this is what I extracted from this financial book I'm reading. It talks about money, time, rate of return, inflation, tax. So all of these things go in to us being wealthy. And I feel like a lot of us don't, at least for me, and so let me speak for myself first, I feel like I didn't know as much as I started to know when I was reading this book, right? time is important, right? So when the concept of time is, how early did you start to save? Or what time did you put that money into something, right? Me, I don't have anything now, but because I sacrificed some years of time to read up to something that's going to put me in a place where I can start making at a certain level. Now the game is not that I'm making something, but do I have knowledge about wealth now to catch up with those who knew before me that were already putting it in to something? Rate of return is one of the most important aspects of all of this, right? When you invest your money. Inflation, you gotta understand when economically things are being inflated in taxes. But the most powerful is the rate of return. And when I talk about that, there's something called rule of 72, right? So 72 divided rate of return tells you how many years you double your money. That's the most important thing, because if the percentage, you got asked, what's the rate of return? 6% versus 12 is different, because 12% rate of return, you double that money in less than a year. Because rate of return can overpower the inflation and the tax on it. Because these are going to be counteracted. That's why this is a plus or minus. You understand? So that's something to understand, that the rate of return when you put your money into something. And also a concept that I don't know who knows, you may know since you're in this, simple versus compound interest, right? Understanding the concept of interest, especially those of us that are taking loans, they got to pay something back, and mortgages and stuff like that. When you go there, don't be a dummy. Ask these questions. What kind of interest is this? When they tell you about interest, they say 15% interest. But you got to ask the question, is it simple versus compound interest? And this is what this means. So if in the first year you put $10,000 in something at 6% interest, right? 600, so the total that you have will be 10,600, right? The next 10,000 will be calculated the same. You don't add the total. Versus a compound interest, it adds the total. It puts an interest on the total of the first year, and you add more. So in 10 years, under compound interest, you've made more than you make, with simple interest. So like finances, there's no direct pathway to be rich, but understanding the mathematics with the stuff and the way you converse situationally and things like that frees you up and allows you to know what's going on. But I think the most important thing here is something called the X-curve concept, and so many things I want to talk about, but I extracted just a few things to add because I feel like this is important. So this is an X-curve concept. This curve here is the responsibility curve, and this right here is the wealth curve. As you see on the X-axis here, you have younger and older. When you're young, you don't have wealth, but the concept is to have wealth as you grow. You understand? When you're young, you have a lot of responsibilities. When you get older, your goal is to have less responsibilities. When you're young, you have to take care of your family. That's how you have to think. When you get older, you don't want to be an old person and your 401k is going to your kids to raise them and stuff like that. You're not going to retire. So when you have less responsibility and your wealth is up, you can retire. And I derived something. I was like, you can either have a right shift or left shift based on what you understand, right? A right shift would mean that you have understood how to expedite the process to get faster. You've educated yourself. Now you can get the wealth faster. You understand? You can reduce your responsibilities quicker, right? And then as you get older, you can retire earlier. A left shift was you didn't stick to the normal. You just delayed yourself. You got a lot of debit cards. You understand? You didn't get life insurance. You didn't have life insurance, and life things happen. You have bad illnesses. Your health is bad and stuff like that. You basically here. Wealth is killing you because you can't free yourself and help yourself. So the quote: you have to give up something to get something. Because of short time and what I can put on this camera, I'm gonna just do a quick summary and then we can keep talking. So to conclude, the whole concept of this gap effect, I want y'all to understand. My cousin over there, he was in a gap period. He's in law school now. The book that I was talking about, The Power of Small, I told him read that book. You understand? He read the book. He saw what I saw. It inspired him. He did his own thing. He studied. He got into a program. Now he's dealing with the program for what it is. You know, he's on a whole different thing. But this still applies. Because later on in our life, we may have another gap period. It may not be educationally. It can be financially. You understand? Something can happen. One of us, our houses can be burned down, and that's a gap period. And you find out that you didn't have enough insurance or anything like that, you stuck. So what we want to be at is right now, regardless of your gap situation, you have to focus on your security, that your life matters. So when you always focus on this, regardless of how these other things are moving for you, this is the most important thing. Because you can help yourself get back your condition right. Your condition can be a heartache that your school is not moving, you have a medical condition, your family needs help. And this is a lot of excuses that I've heard. Oh, my mom needed this, that's why I can't do that. Yeah. So that's your condition. Accept it, understand, formulate a plan, modify the behavior, take the next best approach. But when you consider your life, you have to think about your wealth. Because when you're dealing with money, which we all deal with every day, understanding this will help us get what we need to get and overcome the gap period. And this is all the effects of being in a gap situation. So I want to let y'all know that whether you're stuck, you can still be creative and lesser depressive. Depression is diffused. We all go through it. So you can't be like, oh, I was depressed, so I couldn't get that. So I want to say, it's not about what it looks like. It's not about what it looks like. It's about what it feels like. So we have to do our own internal fixation before the universe does the external fixation.